continue collecting, and remember, stay casual.
Welcome back, casual collectors. I'm Steelwolf
and Spider Kid,
and today we're bringing you a review of the Marvel Legends retro card, the Amazing Spider-Man, also known as the Bombastic Bagman.
So we picked this guy up at Target for the price of $22.99, and he is Target exclusive. And fun fact, we actually couldn't find this guy in physical stores in California. At least that was here. Now we were lucky enough to get an online pickup at a Target that was kind of far from us.
And keep in mind, folks, we didn't even pre-order this guy. We also missed out on that chance. When we found out about this guy, we went to go check the Target online, and the pre-orders were already sold out. And this was literally within minutes.
The first hour, actually.
Yeah, of when they had announced this guy. Because Spider Kid definitely wanted this guy on his shelf, and by the time that we checked, nope, they were gone. So we actually got very lucky that we were able to locate 2 of these at a somewhat local Target.
Okay, now for box detail. As you can see in the front, it shows a really nice looking retro card, but I really like how in the background of it, it's all the comic panels, and it just looks really cool to me. And also, speaking of the back, you can see a nice picture of Paper Bagman, with of course the Amazing Spider-Man right there, and then the Hasbro logo down there. And as we look at the back, we can see another picture of Paper Bagman with the Marvel logo on the corner, and then the Amazing Spider-Man. And if you guys want to read up on his backstory, pause right here to read it.
Alright, there you go, front and back of the box. Now, I love this retro card stuff. It just kind of scratches that old nostalgic thing, you know. They look cool. You almost don't want to open these just because how cool they look. And I just wish that Hasbro would give us a better way to open these guys without having to destroy the box. I know some people use a X-Acto knife or a box cutter to kind of cut the plastic, but even then, like, you can't really put it back on there, you know. I just wish there was a better way that they could make this packaging so that you don't damage it too much. That way, if you wanted to put them back in there, you had the option to put them back if you wish.
Alright, with all that said, let's open him up.
Alright, so real quick, guys, just wanted to show you guys how we opened them. So we talked about how you can just basically get an X-Acto knife or a box cutter and just kind of cut along these edges. That's what we did here. See, we just kind of cut it to about maybe right here, where my thumb is here, and then we kind of just pulled out the other packaging from inside and just kind of wiggled it out of there. That way we keep most of this intact. And again, we just use one of these little box cutters cutting along the edges here. Alright, here we have the Bombastic Bagman out of the package and looking pretty sweet. Now we have on him all his accessories, from his wall crawling hand to his kick me sign on the back. And altogether, it looks great. I mean, just look at the guy. He looks pretty awesome. Alright, so starting with accessories, here are all the accessories that come with the Bombastic Bagman. And as you can see, we have his 2 fisted hands, which those come attached to the figure. And then we also have 2 wall crawling hands. And I feel like they kind of stopped giving us these hands for a while and just gave us those whipping hands. But I prefer these a lot more. I think you can get a lot cooler poses with these hands. And the last but not least of the accessories is this kick me sign here, which looks okay, looks pretty neat, and it just ports to the back of the figure's back. And the cool thing is that this can obviously be used with any figure that has a peg hole in the back. Alright, with the accessories out of the way, let's go ahead and get into some closer details on this figure. So let's take a closer look. Let's go ahead and start with his head here. And right away, we notice this bag on his head, and that's why they call him the Bombastic Bagman. Or at least that's one of the reasons. And right away, I'm noticing these little, tiny little ridges on the bottom of the bag here, and that looks cool. Kind of gives you that impression that it is a paper bag. Gotta say that the sculpting on all these wrinkles of the bag definitely looks pretty cool. And the neat thing too is that you can actually see his eyes through these little eye slits. And it is painted. You can see pupils in there, you can see part of his eyebrow. So that's definitely pretty cool. On the side here, we have some more of that wrinkling. We got some creases. That looks pretty cool. Same thing on the back here, a lot more wrinkles. And those ridges at the bottom right here of the bag definitely goes all the way around the bag itself. The top looks just like this, and this is actually the bottom of the bag with the top of the head, and that looks great. It definitely looks like it's a paper bag. Aside from all this sheen, this kind of like shininess, it looks like a paper bag. Now the only downside about this thing here is the fact that you cannot take it off. I mean, it looks like you can. If you put it under some heat, it might be able to come off because I believe it's glued on there, but let's pop it out here so you can see. Here we go. So if you take a look, it looks like it might be glued in there. I mean, we tried pulling it off, but instead of pulling this bag off, the whole head popped off. So I don't think if it was able to come out that it would be that forceful to have to come out. So I'm pretty sure they might have glued it into the bag there. But I'm pretty sure also though that if you just heat it up with a hairdryer or something, that you might be able to pop that out. Which I think it's kind of a missed opportunity. They should have just made this so that it pops off and given us that Peter Parker head sculpt. But it is what it is. Alright, so moving down to the chest here and the neck area, you definitely see some black paint down here for the collar. That looks good. We got that nice Fantastic Four logo on the chest, and that looks great. Nice paint applications there. We got him in that classic blue suit there. Now in person, it's giving off more of a lighter blue, but it looks like in the camera it's a little bit darker. At least in person it is a little bit lighter. It gives it that more of that classic Fantastic Four look. So continuing on here, we don't have a lot of detail other than the musculature on the figure itself. You can see a lot of the muscle there. That's basically the only real detail you're going to get. Now, the other thing here is we got his belt there. It's just painted in black, and that looks great. Nice shiny black. Over here on the arms, there's nothing really to talk about. You got the musculature, got this nice paint applications of this black here on the forearms for the gloves. That looks good. Hands, same thing. They're just painted in black. Nothing special about that. On the back here, again, nothing special. He's just all blue, other than the black for the belt and the gloves. Here's the legs, more musculature on the legs. And the neat thing now here are the feet. Now these look cool. He's got like this, looks like spandex, you know, the way that they wrap around the feet like that. But that looks great. Definitely gives it a nice cool contrast between this blue and then you got this exposed skin here, this nice skin color. So that looks great. And then just look at the way that these toes have been sculpted. I mean, that looks great. Look at that. You can see even like the nails on top of the toes. That looks great. Very cool. Very, very cool. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into some articulation. Alright, and now for some articulation. Let's go ahead and start with the head. And as usual, the head can turn left, it can turn right, and it can go all the way around. He can actually look up about that much, and you can look down about that much. So looking down is pretty neat. Looking up though, it's pretty good. Definitely the bag gets in the way here in the back. You know, you can kind of look a little further up if you force it, but that's not bad for having this big old bag, plastic bag over his head, so not bad there. As for head tilt, you can tilt a little bit, as you can see there, but again, the tilt is restricted due to the bag here. It hits on the shoulder area there, but it's still not too shabby. Now let's see if he has a pile driver motion here, or the quagmire motion, and barely anything, as you can see here. So for the arms, they go up that far, which isn't bad. They do rotate completely around, as you can see there. And he does have a bicep swivel, as you can see. And he does have double jointed elbows that go into about that much. Moving farther down the arm, his hand can actually swivel here. He does have that hinge on the wrist there. Moving down to the torso area, he does have an ab crunch, and he can crunch forward about that much. And you can crunch back that much. He does have a waist swivel, as you can see. Moving further down, he can do the splits to about, that's about as far as he can do the splits there. He can kick forward about that much, and he can kick back that much. So that's pretty good. Going down further here, he does have an upper thigh cut, as you can see. He also has double jointed knees that go into about that far, so almost touching his butt there. Moving farther down, there is no boot cut or calf swivel, but he does have ankle pivot. And his feet can go up to about that much, and they go down to about that much. And now the other thing is, he does not have any peg holes at the bottom of his feet. And that's going to do it for articulation.
Okay, so this guy stands at about 6.5 inches.
Alright, and for some size comparisons with other Marvel Legends, here we have the Bombastic Bagman next to the Walgreens exclusive Human Torch and The Thing. And for another Marvel Legends size comparison, here we have the Bombastic Bagman next to the Super Skrull Build-A-Figure Mr. Fantastic. Alright, and for some other size comparisons with other toy lines, here on the left, we have the McFarlane Dark Detective Batman. We also have on the right there, we have the Mezco Wolverine. And last but not least, we have the classic Toy Biz Venom. Alright, so for final thoughts here. Is he a cool looking figure? Absolutely. I think he looks very cool. And he's such a kind of like random character to bring in. I mean, it's just Peter Parker. It's just that he had lost his costume. And he kind of had to put in a makeshift one so people wouldn't know it's him. But yeah, the fact that they gave us this figure, pretty cool. Never did I think they'd bring this guy in there. I mean, he just kind of looks weird if you ask me. But very cool little side story behind the reason why he looks like this. But very cool. Definitely a cool one to add to your shelf. And he looks great next to the other Fantastic Four figures. And I honestly think they did a really good job of making it look like the way it looks in the comic books. So I think that's definitely a plus. Now, my biggest problem with this is going to be the head. I like the way the bag looked. I just really did not like the fact that you couldn't take the bag off. I think it would have been such a cool feature if they would have made the bag be kind of like a helmet, where you can just kind of port it over the figure's head. Then you could have actually used it for other characters if you wanted to, you know. But to have that Peter Parker head sculpt underneath would have been definitely very cool to have. And I wish we would have just got more accessories. I mean, why couldn't we get some whipping hands as well? Maybe we could have got some web effects, you know, or at least another Peter Parker head sculpt, something. But as for the figure alone, the articulation is outstanding. I like the articulation. I like the paint apps. So there's not a lot of crazy detail to this, but there doesn't need to be.
Okay, so for my final thoughts, I think that overall, I really like the figure. I think the paint is perfect. I really love how you can see it's like a spandex type of costume because of the way the feet are. Now, my only complaint is that you can't really take off the bag. I would have liked to have like a different head sculpt for the figure itself. And also, speaking of adding stuff, I think extra hands would have been good. At least some like hands for holding stuff, or even just like some web shooting hands would have been nice. Another thing that I wish that they added was the boot cut, because that would have been really helpful for taking pictures. But overall, I really like how, just like the way it looks. Again, it's like the black. It kind of like shines, and you could tell is that it wasn't just a re-release of the original Mr. Fantastic, and that they actually put a little more detail into this figure.
Alright, now for a little segment that I like to call Spider Kids Custom Corner.
One custom I have in my mind is to make the suit more modern by giving it the more modern comic outfit, kind of like this one right here. It'll just be a simple, just like repaint, just like swap the colors out, and obviously remove the feet to give it like boots. And speaking of boots, another one you can do is the PS4 outfits, which all you really need to do is just heat up the figure, remove this part right here, and then just add boot type thing if you want to make it more a little accurate. Or a more quicker way, just use the original Mr. Fantastic body mold. You can use Sharpie to just color the eye holes that are in the actual game. So if you wanted to just make a more modern version of the newer comic, all you really have to do is just pop off the head with this one also, and then there you go. And I know some people might be asking, it would kind of be possible to add as like a little head swap. There you go.
Alright, it's that time again, folks, for our rating. And as always, you can see the rating here on the left. And I'm going to go ahead and give this guy a rating of... great. Now, don't get me wrong, I think it's a cool looking figure. Love the details on the bag. I like the way the bag turned out. You can see the eyes inside, that's cool. I like the bare feet. That's awesome. Thought it was kind of weird though that he didn't have any peg holes on the bottom. But I mean, whatever. It is what it is. The figure, like I said, is great. Articulation is awesome. It's just that my main thing is the lack of accessories. I really think that they could have gave us something else at the very least. Again, I bring up G.I. Joe Classified. I mean, those guys are knocking it out of the park with accessories, and this guy's got none. You know, just the extra hands and then the kick me sign is basically all he gets. Other than that, he's not a very detailed character. I mean, it's pretty simple, it's pretty basic, but nonetheless, a definitely must-have for your collection.
Okay, so I'm going to give this guy a rating of...
Good.
Don't get me wrong, it's a pretty good figure. They used some new molds with a dude like that. Best example is actually the face. But the main issue for me is going to be the peg holes. Those I just feel like I need because it's better to just stand them up and actually just keep them on your desk without them falling over. But it was also the lack of accessories overall and the lack of like head sculpts or just even just like better joints, like butterfly joints. But I do like how they were able to make the kick me sign is right there, and then obviously the paper bag. Though I do wish that they did give you the web hands and some web accessories. But the good part of this is that it's been a long time, ever since Toy Biz, since we got a paper bag man.
Alright, and that's going to do it for our review on the Marvel Legends Bombastic Bagman. I'm Steel Wolf.
And Spider Kid.
Continue collecting, and remember, stay casual.